We are on Samech Beis. We're going to start at Samech Aleph, Amud Beis on the bottom. Amar Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman says the following, talking about the simanim of an oaf. Hayabaki behenu bishmosein. We had a beautiful daf yesterday, exciting. And we said that there are 24 non-kosher birds. 20 of them have 3 kosher simanim. One of them has 2 kosher simanim. 2 of them have 1 kosher simanim, the Perez and the Azniya, and the Nesher has no kosher simanim. So Hayabaki behenu bishmosein. Let's say you're an expert in identifying them. Now, them over here means the Perez and the Azniya, which are not kosher. And you know all of the ones that go by their names. And again, that's where we started, and we said that that's part of the problem today, is that we don't know exactly what the kosher signs are. We don't exactly know how to check the kosher signs, and we don't necessarily know the names. Like I mentioned to you, even if it lists the Orev, for example, first of all, it says the Orev, we don't know exactly which birds the Orev are, which are not kosher. And even if we do, we said that 20 of them are listed, and the other 4, it says Limino or Limina or Liminehu. So we don't know what's included in Limino, in its kind, Liminehu, Limino. So it says in Gemara, if you're a baki in them, Of haba b'siman echad, then if you have a bird that has only 1 sign, but not the other 3, and you're a baki and you know it's not a peretz or an azniya, then tahor, which makes a lot of sense. Since it has only 1 kosher sign, so the only thing you have to be worried about is that maybe it's a peretz or an azniya. So if you're a baki in a peretz or an azniya, which again is not so easy to do, unless you're a, what's it called? Ontologist? What's it called if you're a person?
Ornithologist.
Ornithologist? Ornologist?
Ornithologist.
Ornithologist. Okay, unless you're an ornithologist. I thought it was an ornithologist. Okay, unless you're an ornithologist. So it says it in the article says ornithologist. So unless you're an ornithologist, it's going to be very hard. But if you know that it's not a peretz or an azniya, and it has ofaba b'siman echad, and it has 1 sign, then tahor, you can assume it's kosher, because at the end of the day, again, the only possibility of it being non-kosher is a peretz or an azniya. And again, you can just to reiterate, you can imagine how this is difficult, because you have to know that a dafka has only 1 kosher sign. Means you have to check to make sure it has only 1 kosher sign. Once you've established it only has 1 kosher sign, now you need to establish that it's not a peretz or an azniya. If you're not an expert in the peretz or azniya, then if it only has 1 kosher sign, you have to assume the worst, that it's a peretz or an azniya, and it's going to be tameh. Then it's going to be okay. Let's say it has 2 kosher signs. So the same exact thing. If it has 2 kosher signs, you can assume it's tahor, except if it's what? Except if it's an Orev, Hushiyakir Orev. You have to know that it's an Orev or not, because at the end of the day, if it's an Orev, then it's going to be a problem. So 2 kosher signs, 1 kosher sign, whatever it is, you have to know that it's not in the category. It's going to be very difficult if it has 3, which is, again, it comes out fascinating that the less kosher signs it has, the easier it is to tell whether it's kosher or not. Because 1 kosher sign, not the less, but 1 kosher sign, you only have to know that it's not a peretz or an azniya. 2 kosher signs, you just have to make sure it's not an Orev or in the category of Orev. 3 kosher signs, now you're in trouble. Because now there's 20 birds that you have to check and make sure that it's not one of the 20 birds. So it's much more difficult. Says the Gemara, Orev v'sulo. So now the Gemara wants to know. And again, the Rishonim discuss, which we're going to see a little bit, and part of the reason that it's so complicated is because when we talk about 4 kosher signs, we said in the Mishnah, as I mentioned yesterday, that one of the kosher signs is something that's non-negotiable. Which one? The clawing, the dores. So even if it has 1 kosher sign, what does that mean? So if you say it has 1 kosher sign, that means it's not dores. So the only kosher sign it has is that it doesn't do something. It's going to be very, very complicated, I'm saying. It doesn't have any of the other kosher signs. All you know is that it doesn't claw. And how do you know that it doesn't claw? Right? The Gemara is going to allude to it later, but it's not so much. How do you know it doesn't claw? You've never seen it claw? Okay, have you been following the bird around everywhere it goes? So again, that's where it all comes back to a tradition. Because how do you know that a bird never claws? It's one thing to say it has a positive thing, you could check for it. To say that it never claws, how would you know? And even if you've never seen a claw, so you want to establish and say, well, you can assume it's kosher until you see a claw, we're going to see that that's not necessarily true. Because how do you know whether it claws or not? Again, you see that it's not so pashut, and now we have to go back to the tradition. But it's still an interesting exercise to go through. Orev v'sulo. So the Gemara says, you just mentioned that if it has 2 kosher signs, and you know that it's not an Orev, then lemaisa you can eat it. V'hatanya, is that true? Orev ze orev lemino. But the problem is that the pasuk says, as it says by a few of them, es kol orev lemino. So very nice, you know that it's not an orev, but maybe it's the mino of an orev. Maybe it's the other bird that's similar to an orev, which is going to be considered like an orev, which is going to be non-kosher like an orev. So how do you know that it's just if it's an orev? How do you know that you could eat it? The Gemara is going to answer, you're right, when it says orev limino, when he says that you could eat it as long as you know it's not an orev, it means you know that it's not an orev and you know that it's not a mino of the orev as well. Now again, an orev itself is not just one bird. That's why it's so complicated. It's not just if you want to say that it's a crow, whatever it is. It's not just one bird. It's the whole species of that bird. And then limino is sort of adding another whole species of bird. So the answer in the Gemara is going to be, you're right. When he said you can eat it as long as you know it's not an orev, it means as long as you know it's not an orev or one of the mino of an orev, the species that's similar. But that's going to be the final answer of the Gemara. But let's just go through it for a second, because we're going to have an interesting discussion parenthetically. The Gemara says, Ze orev limino, Rabbi Eliezer. So what does limino add? So we know that again, an orev is an orev. Limino is going to add another bird, and whatever those two birds are, or those two species of birds are, as long as you know it's not one of those two species, you can eat it if it has two kosher simanim. What's limino coming to add? There's an interesting machlokas, which is going to have practical ramifications between Rabbi Eliezer and the Chachamim. Rabbi Eliezer omer, lahavi es a zarzir. There's a zarzir bird, which is included limino of the orev. What's the chiddush of Rabbi Eliezer? The chiddush of Rabbi Eliezer, and again, the reason it's so complicated is because the Gemara never told us which two simanim the orev has. But the chiddush of Rabbi Eliezer is that even though the orev has two kosher simanim, the zarzir has two kosher simanim, but not the same kosher simanim, and it's still considered to be limino of the orev. Amr lo Rabbi Eliezer, how can you say that the zarzir is a problem? How can you claim it's a problem? I know that there's a community of people who eat the zarzir. Why? Because it has a crop, and we know that what? We know that the orev does not have a crop. Therefore, lemais, and again, we don't know that, but they knew that. And seemingly, again, that's going to be part of the equation. That's what the Rishonim struggle with here, is that when you take different Gemaras here, each one alludes to the fact that the crow has a crop. The crow doesn't have a crop. Then you're going to have another one that's going to imply that the crow does have a crop. And that's why we have a problem figuring out exactly what the birds are also. Because it can't be the crow that we know, because the crow that we know does have a crop or doesn't have a crop, peels its gizzard or doesn't peel its gizzard. That's where it gets very complicated. But let's just keep it simple. So they said to Rabbi Eliezer, how could it be that you're going to say that the zarzir is included in the ones that are not kosher, even though it has two kosher signs that are different than, or at least one of them is different than the orev, it's still going to be included in limino, and it's going to be a problem. We see a whole community eats them. How could you ask me Shaila, says Rabbi Eliezer? They'll burn in Gehenna. Of course, very nice that they're doing it. Doesn't mean it's right. You want to start bringing proofs from everything that we do here? You want to start bringing proofs from everything that everybody does? You're going to be in big trouble. I didn't mean here at the BAYT. Davar acher, limino, lahavi snunis levana. Another interpretation, when it says limino, is not to include the zarzir, but it's to include the snunis levana, the white snunis, which again has two kosher signs, different kosher signs than the orev, and therefore one can argue that it's davar acher also. So now, according to Rabbi Eliezer, you could either say it's two or three. So now you have limino includes not only either the zarzir or the snunis levana, or it includes both. Says the Gemara, Div Rabbi Eliezer, that's what Rabbi Eliezer holds. And again, it has two different simanim, or at least one different siman than the orev. Div Rabbi Eliezer, below, how could you say that this snunis levana, this white snunis bird, how could you say that it's not kosher? Its gizzard can be peeled. Now already getting complicated, because now you're telling me its gizzard can be peeled. The gizzard of the crow can't be peeled. So if you just take this Gemara again by itself, which is what the Rishonim struggle with, what did we just learn about an orev? We learned that an orev is unlike a zarzir in the sense that the zarzir has a crow, that the zarzir has a crop. So what does that imply? An orev does not have a crop. It's unlike a snunis levana, which peels its gizzards. Therefore, you see that an orev does not have gizzards that peel. Therefore, according to this Gemara, and again, I'm not saying what other Gemaras imply, but what does Gemara imply? What are the two kosher simanim of an orev according to this Gemara? The fact that it has an elongated toe, and that it doesn't dores. That's what comes out from this Gemara, right? And the Rishonim again struggle with it because it's not necessarily what a crow is like. It's not necessarily what the other brisa elsewhere implies. But I'm just pointing out that if you use just this Gemara makes it clear that the two kosher signs that an orev has is the elongated toe and the fact that it's not dores. Because again, it's different because it just pointed out that these other two birds that are in the same category, according to Rabbi Eliezer, have different things, which is why they were talking. But again, it comes out, Lamaisa, according to Rabbi Eliezer, he says, Amar Lahem, you can't prove that they eat it. Why? So it comes out again. Whether you hold like Rabbi Eliezer or not, it doesn't matter. Because if we just had a kasha from Eliezer, you can't ask a kasha. So what was a kasha? The kasha was that somebody came along, Rav Nachman came along and said that if you have a bird that has 2 kosher simanim, you can eat it as long as you know that it's not an orev. Says the Gemara, how can you eat it as long as you know it's not an orev? The Torah clearly says that not only is an orev treif, also limino is also treif. What is limino? According to Rabbi Eliezer, it includes a zarzir, it includes this funis levana. According to Rabbanan, they say that those are not included, but they'll have to say that something's included in limino. So no matter who you hold like, the Rabbanan are not clear here what is included in limino, but whatever you hold like, there's clearly other species of birds that's included in the orev and limino. So how can you come along with Nachman and say that as long as you know it's not an orev, you can eat it with 2 kosher signs? Maybe it's whatever limino is, according to Rabbi Eliezer, whatever it is, and according to Rabbanan, whatever it is. The Gemara is going to answer exactly what we said. When Rav Nachman said you could eat it as long as you know it's not an orev, as long as you know it's not an orev, and as long as you know it's also not a limino. Ella orev v'chol min orev. That's how Rav Nachman will answer you. When he says you can't eat it, you can eat it as long as you know it's not an orev, and you know that it's not a limino of the orev, whatever limino is, however you hold. If you hold like Rabbi Eliezer, you'll have to know that it's not a zarzir and or a sfunis levona. And if you hold like the Rabbanan, you'll have to know that it's not whatever they feel, which they don't specify here, whatever they feel is included in limino of an orev. Good? Okay, good. Amar Ameimar. That was the easy part. Ameimar says, Hilchasa, the halacha is, Of haba b'siman echa tahor, v'hu delo daris. Very interesting. So let's go back. Forget about the 2. Forget about the orev for a second. Rav Nachman said something else also. Rav Nachman said that if you know that if you have a siman that has only 1 siman, if you have an animal that has only 1 siman, you can eat it as long as you know it's not a peres or an azniya. If it has 2 siman, you can eat it as long as you know it's not an orev or limino. If you have 1 siman, you can eat it as long as you're an expert and you know it's not a peretz and an azniya. Says Ameimar, you don't even have to be an expert at knowing it's not a peretz and an azniya. He argues on Rav Nachman. What does he say? If it has 1 siman, as long as it what? V'hu delo daris. As long as it doesn't claw, you can eat it. Now, this is very complicated, because what's Ameimar saying? Is Ameimar saying it has to have 1 siman plus not clawing? Well, that wouldn't make any sense, because what's that? That's 2 simanim. That's what the Rishonim struggle with. So is he saying you have to have 1 siman plus not clawing? Now you know it's not, well, now you know it's not a peretz and azniya anyway, because the peretz and azniya only has 1 siman, but you don't know what it is. So Ameimar seems to be saying that if you have a bird that doesn't claw, you can assume, now again, you have to be an expert, not in a peretz and azniya, but you have to know that it doesn't for sure have the other, right? You'll have to basically shech the bird. You'll shech the bird. You'll check, you'll see, well, you'll know you'll have a, somehow you'll have a tradition that it doesn't claw. You'll check, you'll see that what? That the gizzard doesn't peel. You'll see that it doesn't have a crop. You'll see that it doesn't have an elongated toe. It only has 1 kosher siman. You'll know that it's not a peretz or an azniya, because seemingly, according to this Gemara, the way Ameimar seems to learn, seemingly a peretz and an azniya what? Seem to claw. That's what I would have to guess from this Gemara without knowing. And therefore, Lamaisa, as long as it goes ahead and it doesn't claw. But again, the pashup shot in the Gemara is very hard to understand, because he seems to be saying, Of haba b'siman echatar v'hu delo daris. Doesn't sound like that 1 siman is delo daris. Sounds like he has 1 siman and he's not daris. So that's not going on the peretz and the azniya. That's going on the orev. Sounds like if you have 1 plus you're not dores, then you know that it's not an orev or a limina, which implies that what? Not that a peretz and an azniya claw, but it implies that an orev and limino of the orev actually claw. Again, I'm just speaking out what the Rishonim probably struggle with. But that's the point. Either way, Ameimar says, if you know that it doesn't claw, whether it's with 1 plus or that's the 1, you know that it's either not a peretz or an azniya, or you know that it's not an orev, and you can go ahead and you can eat it. Amalei Rav Ashla Ameimar Hadu Rav Nachman. What do you do with Rav Nachman, who says that you can't eat it if it has 1 single thing without being an expert at the peretz and the azniya? Again, seemingly learning that the one thing that it has here is that it doesn't claw. Amalei Lo Shmiele Klomar Lo Svirli. I don't hold of him. Ma'ika. Because what was the issue? And again, it seems clear that the Gemara is discussing peretz and azniya here. So what I would think, Pashup Shah in the Gemara would be, Ameimar comes along and is talking specifically about the peretz and the azniya. Comes along Rav Nachman and says, what? You want to eat an animal that has 1 kosher siman, you can eat it as long as you know that it's not a peretz and an azniya. Comes along Ameimar and says, even if you don't know that it's not a peretz or an azniya, you can eat it as long as you know that it doesn't claw. Now again, in my humble opinion, it sounds to be saying the same exact thing. Because if you know that a peretz and an azniya claws, and you see that this animal doesn't claw, then it's the same thing as knowing that it's not a peretz or an azniya. So I'm not really sure that Amemar is arguing on Rav Nachman. Says the Gemara, though, I don't hold of Rav Nachman. Ma'ika, why? Mishum preres v'azniya. What's the whole chashash when you have one siman? It might be a peretz and azniya. Lesnehu b'yishuv. It doesn't hang out where we hang out. That means you can't find a peretz and an azniya. So again, not to make it too complicated, but it sounds like he's saying 1 plus, and that's still the peretz and the azniya, which is hard for me to understand. But he's basically saying that it can't claw, because no animal could claw, and it sounds like it's like taking that siman out. You can argue that it's like taking that siman, like that's a given. The given is that it can't claw. And maybe that's not the one siman that it has to have. According to the way the Gemara seems to be learning now, maybe again, I'm throwing out a lot of things there. Maybe the Gemara could be learning that you need to have 1 plus the fact that it doesn't claw. Like that's a given. We're talking about 1, 2, and 3. We're talking about the clawing is out. That can't be one of the 3. So now you might say you have a thing. So why is he not worried? Why, according to Rav Nachman, do you need 1 plus the not clawing? You have to have 1. If you have 1, you know it's not a peretz and azniya, you're good to go. Says Amemar, you don't even have to know it's not a peretz and azniya. Peretz and azniyas don't hang out here. So as long as you know that it has only 1 siman, you can clarify it only has 1 siman, you can eat it because you're never going to confuse it with a peretz and an azniya. Fine. Again, interesting discussion. Amar Rav Yehuda. Of hamisareit kosher l'taras mitzora. Always get the important halachas like this one in your mind. Mitzora. Mitzora, when he has saras, he gets healed. He has to bring 2 kosher birds to the Beis HaMikdash. What kind of birds does he have to bring? So the Torah talks about it. But it doesn't specify specifically which kosher birds. Now, we've discussed yesterday, there's only 2 types of kosher birds. Torin or Bnei Yonah. The Gemara says, according to Rav Yehuda, that within that category of Torin or Bnei Yonah, you can use an of hamisareit. It doesn't say which one it is, but you can use an of hamisareit, a bird that scratches. It's a type of animal. It's a bird that scratches. Not a bird I like to be around, but a bird that scratches. V'zohi snunis levana shenechlu bar Rabbi Zev v'chachamim. That's the snunis levana. Now let's put on our thinking caps for a second. The snunis levana was the white snunis. What did we say? Rabbi Eliezer held that the white snunis is considered to be what? Orev limino, which makes it what? Which makes it treif. Comes along the Chamim and say it's not included in limino. There are other things in limino, but the white snunis is not included. If it's not included, then it makes it kosher. Who's Rabbi Yehuda going like? If Rabbi Yehuda is saying you could bring this white snunis as the korban for a mitzora, he's clearly holding like the Chachamim, because you can't bring a treif animal on the mizbeach. So he must be holding like the Chachamim. There's 2 arguments here. There's one argument. There's an argument Rabbi Eliezer and the Chachamim. What's considered to be limino of the orev, i.e. what's considered to be non-kosher like the orev? Rabbi Eliezer says what's included? The white snunis. If Rabbi Yehuda comes along and says you could bring the white snunis as one of the korbanos of the mitzora, clearly he's holding that the white snunis is what? Is a kosher animal. If it's a kosher animal, it's clearly not like Rabbi Eliezer is holding. It's like the Chachamim. Amar Amemar says not so simple. Bechiyura kresa. There's different types of snunis. There are snunis that have a white belly. Kuli amalo pligi desharia. Everybody agrees you can bring that as a korban because everybody agrees that that's kosher. Because even Rabbi Eliezer agrees that's not the white snunis that we were talking about that's similar to an orev. Everyone agrees that a white snunis with a white belly is a kosher animal, and therefore Rabbi Yehuda can work within everybody. Again, two separate arguments. Rabbi Eliezer and Chachamim both agree that a white snunis is a kosher animal. Doesn't necessarily mean it can be brought on the mizbeach. Rabbi Yehuda comes and says that kosher animal that you all agree to with a white belly, that can actually be brought as a mitzora. So what are they arguing about? Kuli amalo pligi. Ki pligi, because again, Rabbi Eliezer did say that you're allowed, he said that a white snunis is included in an orev category. So which one is it that he's saying is included in the orev category that's going to be treif? Says the Gemara, ki pligi b'diroka karesa. If it has a yellow belly, Rabbi Eliezer asr rabbanan sharu. Rabbi Eliezer says it's asr. Yellow belly is considered to be like an orev and is treif. Says the Chachamim, a yellow belly is not considered to be like it's not considered to be treif. Therefore, Yehuda says you could bring it with the yellow belly. Then who's he holding like? He's clearly holding like the Chachamim. V'hilchas like Rabbi Eliezer, the halacha is like Rabbi Eliezer, but Rabbi Yehuda is not holding like Rabbi Eliezer. He's holding like the Chachamim that you could bring this one with the yellow belly. Marzutra Masni Hacham. Marzutra clarified it differently. Bidiroka Kresa. If it's a yellow belly, Kuli Amalo Pligi Diasir. No! Even the Chachamim agree that when Rabbi Eliezer says that this white bird is going to be like an orev, that's the white bird with a yellow belly. The Gemara is going to ask in a second if it's a white bird with a yellow belly, or if it's a yellow belly, why is it calling it a white bird? The Gemara is going to answer, well, anything relative to black is white. Okay. Says the Gemara, they argue with the belly's actually white. Rabbi Eliezer Aser, Rabbanan Sharu. Rabbi Eliezer says if it has a white belly, it's like a orave, and it's going to be Aser, and therefore what? Obviously, Rav Yehuda says you could bring it is not holding like Rabbi Eliezer. Chachamim say it's Sharu. V'ilch like Rabbanan de Sharu. The halacha is like the Rabbanan, that it's a kosher bird. If it's a kosher bird, Rav Yehuda says you could bring it. So the Gemara, it's understandable if you say that they're arguing about the belly that's white. Hainu diktani snuna silvana. That's why it calls it snuna silvana. Ella, what if you're arguing Laman Damar B'diruka Pligi Mas Snuna silvana? Says the Gemara, Lafuke debate du kamti. Again, if you have a completely black bird, it's white. Yellow is relative to black. White. Okay, no. I think it comes out more. It comes out more glot if you say that. If you say what? If you say that when he said a white snoonus, it's actually the white snoonus with a white belly, right? So how does it come out? So it comes out that the white snoonus, which has the white belly, Rabbi Eliezer argues, and again that seems to be saying by, it's like the second version of Mar Zutra, which comes out what? It comes out that, again, two arguments. We had the white belly, which makes more sense to me. The white belly, Rabbi Eliezer says what? This bird with a white belly, it's considered to be like an orave, and it's going to be treif. And therefore, according to him, you cannot bring it on the mizbeach. According to the Chachamim, the white belly will not be like an orave, it'll be kosher. And therefore, when Rabbi Yehuda says that you can bring it on the mizbeach, he's seemingly going like the Rabbanan, who say that this white-bellied bird can go ahead and can be brought on the mizbeach, which a mitzorah can bring. But again, we get the general klolim that we remember that a mitzorah needs to bring birds, and we understand that it's a Torah or a Bnei Yonah, and we have to figure out what's included in that. Okay, Amar Rachva, Amar Rebbe Yehuda. Rebbe Yehuda and Rav Yehuda are the same here. Tasil, you have something called a tasil. Pasul mishum torin, v'kosher mishum Bnei Yonah. Very interesting. So we said that you could bring torin or Bnei Yonah. You could either bring young pigeons or torin. And if you remember, for those that have been chazering, I'm sure, so you probably saw it recently, on the Mishnah on Chav Beis Amud Aleph, 22a, 40 blot ago. So if you remember, that we pointed out that the Torah specifically mentions torin u Bnei Yonah. So Bnei Yonah implies that a pigeon, if you're going to bring it, it needs to be young. I forgot exactly. Does anybody remember? Was it less than a year? Is that what we said? So it needs to be less than a year. The Torin doesn't say Beno Torin. A Kedafka can't be less than a year. So a pigeon, if you want to bring it, you have a choice. Either a Torin or a Bnei Yonah. What did we say? Torin, we said it was a turtle dove. Yeah. So if you're going to bring a turtle dove as a korban, which again, those are the only two you could bring, and then there's also variations as we saw. Maybe this white-bellied bird can also be in the category. But there's going to be a nafkamina now, because if you have a tasil, so the Gemara says, Pasul mishum torin v'kosher mishum b'nei Yonah. Now, it makes a nafkamina. There's a practical difference. First of all, you have to decide, is an animal in the category of either a b'nei Yonah or a torin, right? First, you have to decide, is it a kosher animal that can be brought on the mizbeach? Not that it's kosher. It could be kosher and not be brought on the mizbeach. There's a lot of kosher birds that can't be brought on the mizbeach. Turkey's not brought on the mizbeach, even if you say it's kosher, right? So now you have kosher animals. Once you decide that it's a kosher animal, because it has the simanim, whichever simanim it has, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. Now, the question is it Mahadran kosher, i.e., can it be brought on the Mizbeach as well? And if it can be brought on the Mizbeach, you have to put it into a category. Who cares which category it goes into, because it makes a difference. Because if it goes into the Torin category, now you can bring it on the Mizbeach as long as it's a year old or older. If it goes into the Bnei Yonah category, then you can only bring it on the Mizbeach until it's a year old. That makes a big nafkamina. So the Gemara here says that this bird called a tasil it is a kosher bird, and it's kosher for the Mizbeach, and it goes into the Bnei Yonah category. So you can bring it until it's a year old. Datzipe, Torin Shel Rechava, Datzife and the Plaza Torin are Ksher Mishum Torin, Upsula Mishum Bnei Yonah. Those are also kosher. They're kosher L'Mahadran, they can be brought on the Mizbeach, but they're dafka kosher in the Torin category. You can only bring them after they're a year old. Masir Rav Daniel Bar Rav Katina. So he's going to kasha on the fact that a tasil, you just said, is Bnei Yonah. He's going to ask a kasha on this. Why? Because he says, Kol ha'ofos, pos and mechatas. Again, a lot of interesting discussions here, parenthetically. We know that there's mechatas, chutz min hayona. Chatas water is the water that you put in water, and you have the ashes of the paraduma, and you sprinkle it on a person or on a thing that is tamei meis. Now, what happens if I decide that I'm thirsty and I take a drink out of the mechatas water? Seemingly, I ruin it. because I'm going to slurp all over it. I'm not the most careful drinker, and I'm going to put some of my spit in there, or I'm going to gargle it in my mouth and then spit it back into the pot. So I'm going to ruin it. We also know that if it's used for other things, like if you use it to work or something, you just use it to wash hands or something, even if it doesn't get dirty. If you use it for other work, or if it becomes disgusting, you can no longer, now you pour it back in, it's going to be ruined. What happens if a bird drinks out of it? Says the Gemara, any bird that drinks out of the mechatas water ruins it except for a pigeon. Why? Because a pigeon sucks up water and doesn't dribble it into the vessel. What does that mean? So for those that are, again, whatever it's called, ornithologists. So pigeons, if you ever go to Central Park in New York, if you ever want to feed a pigeon, you'll see pigeons are, there's people like this also. There are people that are really sloppy eaters, and then there are people that are like a little bit sloppy, and then there are people that are really clean. So the pigeon is saying it's like very, very sloppy. The pigeon, when it goes ahead and it sucks water up, so not, right, pigeons are different. I'm sorry, regular, the pigeon is the yona. The non-pigeons, the non-yonas, when they drink, they sort of like, and then they dribble and they get all over themselves and then they get it back into the thing. So once they drink it, it's going to be gone. A pigeon, when the pigeon drinks it, so it goes out and it sucks it up. It has a special something, some type of muscle in the esophagus. It drinks it up and it doesn't dribble any back. If it doesn't dribble any back, then it's fit to be used for mechatas, because it sucks it up. But if you're saying that you just said that what? That a tasiel is what? Is kosher on the mizbeach as a yona, as a bnei yona, as a pigeon, then why is it not adding to the list? You know what kind of animals are kosher if they drink out of the mechatas? What? A yona and a tasiel. Says the Gemara, listen chutz mi yona v'tasiel. Says the Gemara, no, Amar of Zera. Zem motzei tu meki. This is like mitzitza, right? Mitzitza bepeh. We're talking about, right? Mitzitza, it's sucking, the same thing. It's sucking the blood. Zem motzei tu meki v'zem motzei tu meki. This is what I was talking about. There are three categories. Most birds are just dirty eaters. So they drink out of the water. They're going to make a mess. For sure, they're going to go in, dribble out. That's going to be pasul. The yona is the cleanest eater. It goes ahead, it sucks it up. Nothing gets in. There's no leftovers. For sure, the mechatas is fine. The tasiel, which you're claiming is like a yona, and then you say, well, if it's like a yona, why doesn't it list it as being a kosher bird that if it drinks out of the mechatas, it's fine? The tasiel is like a yona in the sense that it can be brought on the mizbeach, but in terms of its drinking, it's not 100% as clean as the yona. Even though it also sucks up, some of the water, it's not 100%, and it still dribbles a little bit back. So it's much cleaner than a regular animal, a regular bird, but it's not as perfect as a yona, and therefore, in terms of the mechatas, eina chanami, if it drinks out of the mechatas, it's going to ruin it, but it doesn't mean that it takes it out of the category of a pigeon, and lemaisa could still be brought on the mizbeach. So it's enough of a pigeon to be brought on the mizbeach, not enough of a pigeon to be able to keep the mechatas that it drinks out of kosher. Amar Yehuda, hani kufshinit sutzainik sherin legabe mizbeach. There's a torin, which we said a torin are fit, but there's a tzutzuni torin that are fit for the mizbeach. V'heinei torin shavachava. It's the same thing that we just said as the torin shavachava. Mesa, we have a kasha and review. How can you say that the tzutzeinei are ksherim? We know that the Torah tells us we have to use an azov. I'll be very impressed. Many of you can tell me where are the 4 times the Torah tells us, without looking at the article note, where are the 4 times that you have to go ahead and use an azov in the Torah? One of them is Korban Pesach, when you take the blood and you put it on the lintel and doorpost with an azov. Where else do you use an azov? By the paraduma, by the mechatas. You have to burn, right? You have to sprinkle it. You have to sprinkle it with an azov. What else? Another sprinkling of the blood by the mitzorah. And the last one is the burning of the paraduma. When you actually burn the paraduma, you throw a hyssop in it.
What was the other one?
The sprinkling of the paraduma. So it's interesting. The burning of the paraduma and then the sprinkling of the paraduma water, both of them have azov. And then again, the sprinkling of the blood of the bird on the mitzorah. And then the most common one, which is the Korban Pesach. So you see that it has to be an azov. Velo azov yon, not an azov yon, which many of the Mefarshim means an azov that grows amongst the thorns, but more commonly an azov yavan. The Greek azov, okay, like Greek yogurt. Velo azov kochali, blue azov. Velo azov romi, Roman azov. Velo midbari, nor desert azov. Velo kol azov sheyesh lo shem levai. Any azov that has some type of modifying term. So you see that when the Torah says azov, it means azov and only azov. None of these knockoffs. So why over here are you telling me that if you could bring a torin, then you can also bring the what? You could also bring the tzutzaini. Kufshini means torin in Aramaic. So you can bring the tzutzaini torin. Says the Gemara, Amar Abaye, no. Kol shenishtanish mo kodem Torah. This is very hard to understand. Gemara says Kol shenishtanish mo kodem Torah v'ikpida Torah alav yesh lo shem levai pasol v'hani lo nishtanish shem and shman kimo kodem Torah, and therefore they're fine. The Gemara seems to be arguing that when Matan Torah came and God said, "Thou shalt use an azo for these four things," there was already such a thing as all these other azovs. There was an azov midbari, there was an azov kochali, there was an azov yavan, there was an azov romi, etc. So when God says, "Thou shalt use an azov for these four things," He meant thou shalt use an azov and only a plain azov. None of these other azovs. Again, hard for me to understand exactly what this means, but what it's saying is, in terms of the Torin, at the time of the Torah, there was only, everything was referred to as a Torin. And the specific names of Torin only came after the Torah was given. And therefore, when God said, "Thou shalt use a Torin or a Bnei Yonah," when He said Torin, He wasn't specifically saying a regular Torin and no other Torin, because there was only one type of Torin at the time. And therefore, anything else that's called a Torin later on, that's going to be okay to use. Hard for me to understand exactly what that means, that the Azovs were all named before the Torah or not, but fine. That's why I think Rava might come along, which is easier to understand. Rava Amar, Hani Kushani Tutsaina Be'asrayu Stama Karilahu. What's the issue with using the Azov Yavan, the Azov Kochali, the Azov Romi? What's the issue? It's a different type of Azov. It's a different species of Azov. It grows in a different place. It's a different color. God says you need to use a regular Azov. Right? For example, there's different types of dates. You have to use a regular date. You can't use any of these other fancy dates. What's this tzutzaine? What's this Torin that's a tzutzaine? It's exactly the same Torin. It's just that it grew in a different place. It means you could have regular dates that grow in New York, probably not, but regular dates that grow in New York, that grow in Florida, that grow in Israel, that's fine. Then you can have other type of dates. If it's a different type of date, even if they're both grown in Israel, that's not going to be good. But if it's the same date and one is grown here and one is grown there, that's fine. That's what's happening over here. The Azovs are all different types and species of Azov. Says the Torah, the Azov needs to be specifically an Azov. How come over here, if the Torah says you have to bring a Torah and this Sutsaini Torah is the same, how come you're allowed to bring it? Because it's the same thing. It's a regular Torah. It's just the Torah of this place. Oh. We originally thought in the Havamina that the place has different types of Torah. This specific place has the same exact Torah that's a regular Torah. It's just from a different community, that's going to be fine. But if it's a different type of Torah, then it's going to be a problem. That's a little bit easier for me to understand.
Is genetic and is geographic?
Correct. Geographic is fine. Genetically different is going to be a problem. Amar Rav Yehuda, Hani kraze debe chilfe sharu. The grasshoppers that are in the rushes, which is a type of grass, it's mutter. Now again, this is all within the opinion that holds you could eat grasshoppers in the first place. But if you eat grasshoppers, and the ones that are in the rushes are okay, debe krave asire. The cabbage patch ones are forbidden. Amar Avinu malkin and alaya mishum sheretz ha'of. Since there's a pasuk, and we know that when there's a pasuk, Lamaisa, if there's a pasuk and something is definitely non-kosher, so he's adding, and he's saying that these ones in the cabbage patches are not just suffik. If they're suffik and you eat them, you don't get malchus. But if it's definitely treif and you eat it, you get malchus. He's telling you the cabbage patch ones are definitely treif, and if you eat them and you're warned, Lamaisa, you'll get malchus. Now we're just going to deal with different types of animals. Tzra de shari, bar de asir. It's very interesting. And you see that the Gemara many times works. And a way to remember your learning is to put in simanim, to put in mnemonics. So it says this type of bird is kosher, the tzrada, and the barda is aser. How do you remember it? V'simanecha bar minei. Barda is like bar minei. Bar minei means to exclude. Bar minei means to exclude. So if you want to remember which one is excluded, which one is not kosher, the barda is excluded. Marda sveika, the marda is a suffix. Amar Avasi, we're going to talk about the marda in a second. And the reason that we're not specifying the specific birds, even though many Rishonim do, is because it's impossible to know exactly which birds we're talking about. That's why sort of keeping them as the name that they're given is a little bit easier. Amar Avasi, Shmona sveikos say there are 8 types of birds that are questionable, and seemingly what would the halacha be if you have a questionable bird? Are you allowed to eat it or not? Seemingly you couldn't eat it if it's questionable, unless you know that it's kosher, unless it has a tradition that it's kosher. What are the 8 questionable birds? Chuva, chuga, suga, harnuga, tushlimi, marda, that's what we just said. Kochilna, ubarnafcha. Interesting, because we just said the barda is asr, the barnafcha is a question. Mais fekaya, what's the safek? Ophos tahorin kurkava niklaf. Now again, this is one of those other Gemaras that seems to give each, it's like a scavenger hunt. Right? It's like a puzzle. Each time you read a Gemara, you get like another clue. But over here now it's giving another clue, which again doesn't necessarily stim well with the other Gemaras. But now it's saying Ophos tahorim kurkava niklaf, that a kosher bird you can peel the gizzard, but that's not true. We know that one of the possibilities, or one of the possible kosher signs is peeling the gizzard, but nobody ever said that every single kosher bird you could peel the gizzard. That's not true. And the Rishonim point that out. It's just one of the signs. What it means is that if it has a peelable gizzard along with 3 other simanim, then it's definitely kosher. If it's not dough raised and it has a peelable gizzard and the other 2 simanim, then you know for sure it's kosher, like we said. Right? We said not like the Nesher might be kosher if it has even 1, but we said if it's like the Torah and it has 4, then for sure it's kosher. Says the Gemara, my sveikayu ofeskaran korgavan niklav utmeine korgavan niklav. The gizzards of non-kosher birds cannot be peeled. Maybe, maybe not. Again, some non-kosher animals have gizzards that can be peeled. It's missing other simanim. V'hani korgavan niklav bisakina. So what's the kasha here? The kasha, again, if you want to simplify it, the Rav Asi is saying the reason that these are questionable is that they're going to be questionable. Any bird is going to be questionable, unless, like we've spoken about today, unless you have a Masorah that it's good, or you know that it's for sure not an or, even this, that. But there's only one way to know that a bird is definitely kosher without looking at any other birds. If you don't know anything about any birds in the world, and you want to know that a bird is definitely kosher, there's only one way to do it. How do you do it? By seeing that it has all 4 simanim. That means unless you have all 4 simanim, you're going to have to go and look into other birds to see if they're like other birds or not. The only way to know that a bird is 100% kosher without seeing any other birds, the only way to know that a bird is 100% kosher in a vacuum is by seeing that it has all 4 simanim. So I think what the Gemara here means is that if you want to know that a bird is 100% kosher, there's no way to know that these 8 birds are 100% kosher. Why? Because the gizzards, the fact that they peel their gizzards is a question. Why? Because even if they have the other 3 simanim, which the Gemara seems to imply these have the other 3 simanim, they're not dough raised, they have a long toe, they have a crop, but you still can't tell. Why? Because there's a whole question with their gizzards. Why? Because you could peel their gizzards, but only with a knife. And we don't know when we said you could peel your gizzards, we always thought, and again, like I saw the guy do it last week, he peeled it with his finger. When you peel the gizzards, we're talking about peeling with your finger. The question is, and the suffix the Gemara has is, does peeling the gizzards with a knife, does that include in peeling the gizzards? Says the Gemara, understand, it's clear. There was a duck in Mar Shmuel's house, they couldn't peel the gizzard. They put it into the sun, they dried it off, and then they were able to peel it, and we know that a duck is a kosher animal, so you clearly see that as long as you could peel it at some point, however you peel it, it's going to be okay. Says Gemara, no, hasam birafe iklif biyada. Hacha avagav dirafe lo miklaf elabezakina. No, there lamaisa they still peeled it with their fingers. Yes, they had to dry it off first in the sun, but they were lamaisa able to peel it with its fingers. If you want to say that something is for sure kosher, you might be able to dry it off, but you have to be able to peel it with its fingers. The shaila here that we don't know is even after drying it, they couldn't peel these with their fingers. Is peeling something with a knife considered to be? Because it's a lot harder to peel something with your fingers than it is with a knife. So if the fact that it's more, if the Torah is telling you, or if Chazal are telling you that one of the signs of a kosher animal is that you could peel the gizzard, the Gemara is basically, again, we always want to back up and say, what are we getting from this Gemara? What we're getting from this Gemara is that when it says that you have to peel the gizzard, or that peeling of the gizzard is one of the 4 signs, the shaila is, for sure, with your finger is considered to be good. The Gemara is bisafek. This is the fancy way of saying the Gemara is bisafek, whether using a knife is considered to be good. And therefore, unless you could peel a gizzard of an animal with your fingers, you'd have to assume that that's not considered to be one of the kosher signs, and you cannot say for sure that it has all 4 kosher signs. Amar Abaye, Tarnagola de Agma chad mishmona sveikosu. The Tarnagola of Agma is one of the 8 sveikos. V'hainu mardu. The mardu over here, or the marda, that's also referred to as the Tarnagola de Agma, which is a male, I think. And therefore, that's also one of the 8 suffix. Amar of Papa, Tarnagola de Agma asira. He says no. He argues, and he says no, it's forbidden. Well, not that he argues. He says it is one of the 8 questionable ones. And like I mentioned to you just now, if it's an 8 questionable one, it's forbidden. Now, again, doesn't mean it's definitely usser. But it's forbidden, saying that it has all 4 kosher signs. It might be permitted if you can prove that it's a kosher bird from elsewhere. But in terms of, once it has a questionable sign, you can't say for sure that it's kosher. Tarnagola de Agma Sharia. The Tarnagolta de Agma, which is the female version, is going to be Sharia. Says the Gemara, Simanacha Amoni velo Amonis. If you want to remember which one is kosher, which one is not, then you know from Amoni velo Amonis that only an Amoni is not allowed to marry into the Jewish people, and Amonis is allowed to marry into the Jewish people, and therefore you know that the female version over here is good. Darash Meimar said, Tarnagolta de Agma Asira, the swamp hen is forbidden. This is the Gemara just said that Tarnagola de Agma was fine. Amoni velo Amonis. What's the pshat? This is where we started with the shear, and it's good to end with the same thing we started with. Chazyua didar sabachla. They originally thought it was mutter because they didn't see it claw. They later saw it claw. Rashi learns from here that again, based on what we said before, that just because something is not known to claw or not, you can't assume that it doesn't claw, and you have to assume the worst unless you have a tradition that it claws. V'hainu gerusa, and this is the gerusa, which again is going to be a puzzle animal. We originally thought it was kosher, then we saw that it claws. Once we saw that it claws, it becomes treif. Amarav, shavor andrapata shari. The shavor andrapata is permitted, peiros andrapata is aser. How do you remember the difference between a shavor and a peiros andrapata? We know that one of them is kosher, one of them is not. How do you know the difference between manecha, peiros, rashia? There used to be, in the times of the Beis Hamikdash, there used to be a villain called Peiros the Wicked. So Peiros the Wicked, so therefore if you have a bird named Peiros, you know he's wicked and he's not kosher. Amrafuna, bunya shari parva asir. The bunya is allowed, the parva is asir. Simanecha parva amgusha. There used to be Parva the sorcerer. He actually built one of the chambers in the Beis Hamikdash called Beis Parva. He later converted, but the point is that at the time he was doing sorcery, it was a problem. Therefore, if you want to remember, if Parva is a problem, Parva is asir. Amar of Papa mardu zagid v'achil shari. The mardu that stands up and eats is permitted. Sagid v'achil asir. The one that sits down and eats is forbidden. How do you know the one that bends down and eats is forbidden? How you can remember that? Lo tishtach el nechar. You can't bow down. So if it's an animal that bows down, it's worshipping avodah zarah, you can't eat it. Amar Shmuel shas yacham rasir. A cool name. This is a bird that's called the wine drinker. You can't eat that one. How do you know you can't drink the wine drink? You can't eat the wine drink? Because we know that Kohanim who drink wine are pasul avoda. So too, the animal, the bird that drinks wine, or the wine drinker, he doesn't drink wine, but the wine drinker bird is pasul to eat. There's another bird called the wine mixer. Bas mazga chamrashai. Then there's one called the wine mixer's daughter. What? The Saramashkin. So you can eat the wine. You can't eat the wine mixer, but you can eat the wine mixer's daughter. Okay. How do you know that you can eat the wine mixer's daughter? What's the siman? Simanecha yafek koach haben mikoach av. We had that before. I don't remember where we had that before. I should remember, but we had before that the son sometimes is greater than the father. We said that when it comes to Yerusha, or when it comes to a debt, so paying off a debt, the father is going to have a problem paying off a debt, but if he dies and then the son has to pay off the debt, he has more room to be meko. Amar Yehuda, finally, shkitna, the three types of bird called the shkitna. Ariche shaki v'sumke, if it has long legs and it's red, sharia, then it's kosher. V'simanecha morzima. The morzima is another bird that's like that, that's kosher. Gutse v'tsumke asire, if it has short legs and red, it's forbidden. So long legs and red is good. Short legs and red is forbidden. V'simanecha none is pasul. How do you know short legs is a problem? Because a Kohen who's a dwarf is pasul for the avoda if he's too short. Ariche shaki v'roke asire. And the one that has long legs but is not red, but is yarok, which again, sometimes means green, sometimes means yellow. That's going to be forbidden. V'simanecha yerukim psulin. Where do we have that? We just had that. Yerukim psulin. That I think if the poison gets injected, I could be wrong, but I think if the poison gets injected, right? We said that it depends on what color if it gets clawed by like a wolf or something, right? The intestines, if they turn green and they don't stay red, then we said that it becomes pasul. Shkoyach, everyone.